Test, test. Test. Hello? Hello, hello? Test, test. Test, test. Test.
We just changed. Yeah, I think not observed.
Поки що на запис піде.
Модератор.
Модератор сюди. Ти можеш також... Yeah, we could do that. Давай, да.
Давай, флекс.
Запис не всіх буде видно. О, може, це Just one second. This way. Запис нормальний? Да. Ви пересунете. Maybe we need to step a little bit back.
The children and their families and households need
So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us, at least online. Today we start over. Last time speaker. You join us. Yeah. So, hi everyone, thanks for joining our discussion panel. And this is almost in the last days of COP28, and as we gather here, this discussion panel is aimed to share our experiences in different fields, NGOs, youth councils, government, Yango, and on different levels. As we all know, the Russian full-scale invasion over Ukraine has deeply affected the abilities not just in Ukraine but worldwide to fight for climate action, but also has shown to the whole world the true price of fossil fuel energies. The International Energy Agency many times reported the interconnection between Russian exports of fossil fuel energies and how this was then used in the budget. But today we're more here to discuss what Ukrainian youth can do in Ukraine in order to help fight for climate action, help protect Ukraine and Ukraine's nature, etc., etc. So today with us we have our speakers, Alexei Rabchin, a negotiator to UNFCCC with Ukraine since 2015 and a member of Ukrainian parliament between 2014 and 2019. We have with us Tobias Horev from Klima Delegation, an active member in Yango. Katarina, how to pronounce your...
No, it's Kasia.
Kasia, okay. So we have Kasia with us, coordinator of the Global Alliance of Youth Climate Councils. Xan Northcott, focal point for Global North for Yango. Philip from a lead youth negotiator with Austria at UNFCCC. And we have Sergei, a young negotiator from Ukraine, officially. So maybe I wanted first to ask certain questions to Alexei. And thanks for finding time to joining us. How did you start to become a negotiator, and what's driven you to do so?
First of all, I'm really proud to become part of Young discussion. We had a week ago discussion with our NGOs, and then comes like in Young, I guess it was UNICEF ambassador from Ukraine, and he said like more young participants should do it. And I asked like question, what young does it mean? Like what is, because I'm 40. He said like in Ukraine it's like up to 35, but like we would stick to under 24. I said like, well, okay, under 24, but like yet I guess in my 40 I could feel myself a bit younger. But indeed I started this negotiation like 8 years ago, and like what kickstarted it, like I did my climate PhD. I wrote my PhD thesis in like 2010. I started my PhD in 2005. So like it's, for me, it's like more than 20 years working in climate and green science, business, policy and politics. So I used to be the member of Ukrainian parliament, used to be deputy minister. I'm working as an advisor for the government. So I know all this sphere from, like very, very deeply. And I'm in this interdisciplinary kind of professional, like knowing like economics, law, environment, energy, and many other spheres. So like it's my job. I was trained deliberately to do this, and for me it's a dedication, because I know this is my pledge to work for my country, for my people, for the current generation, for my kids, for my grandkids and their kids. So this is why I'm doing this. I'm really truly believe in this, and I'm driving this, like for like even during the war, like we're trying to show this. Yeah. So for me, it's really important. It's like it's come from my heart.
Yeah, and I truly believe it. We first met, I remember it was 2019. You invited Fridays for Future to come to the Ukrainian parliament and shown us like 2 times, maybe more how it functions and how the system is difficult. In my own perspective, I started like as a UNICEF youth delegate. It was my 24th year, so they still have been able to support it. But it was truly because like we understood how it works, what we need to do. And we have here certain activists from Fridays for Future who also became negotiators. Maybe Philip, how was it to start the program in Austria?
Thank you. So first of all, also, it's my pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation, for setting this event up. I think it's very important to talk about like different ways how to engage youth, also in the international level. Yes, for me, so as you already mentioned, I'm a part of the Austrian Youth Delegation program, and we are quite well embedded in the like official Austrian delegation. And yeah, I came to Vienna about like 4 years ago, and there I really started to get engaged in the in the climate movement. I organized an ALCOI, like the official climate conference of Austria, and then I also started like in to become a part of Fridays for Future Austria and be involved in political campaigns. And a good friend of mine, he already was a youth delegate back then. And I was also quite interested to get a better insight of the international climate diplomacy, because I think you can really have like a good overview of your own domestic climate policies, but like what is going on here and the UNFCCC, it's super opaque. It's really difficult to understand. And I think there's so much going on the national level that if you don't like take time very consciously, you might have a hard time understanding what's going on the international level. So I applied for this program and somehow got accepted. Yes, and I really enjoyed like the last 1.5 years, to be honest, because I think it was a really mind broadening and meaningful experience for myself. And maybe I will just like briefly touch upon like our program to give a better insight on that. We are based like in an organization which is called Climates Austria. We are like in close cooperation with the official climate ministry, and they have like a funding arrangement. And this funding arrangement covers like 90% of the costs of the youth delegation program, but also other programs of our organization. And this is, I think, one of the crucial aspects, because as we all know, like participating at COP, like going to the different countries, staying there for a long time, is always like comes with many costs. And if you really have to care so much about the costs and the logistics behind it, I think that like the real interesting part, which is like the engagement with the actual negotiations, falls short sometimes. So I think for us, it's like really helpful to have this baseline as a funding arrangement, and we know that we're able to participate. This is set. On the other hand, we have like a 2-year-long program. So on the first year, like you are a junior, you have a party badge, you're the official representative part, like the official voice of the Austrian youth at the climate negotiations. And but you also have like the seniors who were the juniors last year on your side, who show provide you with guidance throughout your year, and they take care of the more administrative tasks. And I think this really worked well for us, because there's so much you have to learn and to think about, and also in terms of relations with the delegation, because it's also very often based on a personal relationship with the heads of delegation, etc., etc. And it really helps, I think, to have like someone on your side who actually went through this by themselves, and who can share and transfer all this knowledge acquired throughout the last year. Yes, and for me, maybe the last point, it was very, very great to see actually like the big developments we were able to implement in the last 1.5 years, because I think if you think back how it was last year, this year we are much closer to our own delegation. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And in like in Central European context, it's understandable, like there has been institutions for years, so you didn't have to start the whole thing, and there were already people who were in this youth delegation programs and ready to transfer the knowledge. And of course, capacities are different per each country. Ukraine is currently in full-scale invasion, and meantime grappling, like doing self-funding to renewable energy projects. Maybe in the context of Eastern Europe, did you have this program already, or what driven you? Maybe it was some kind of grassroots initiative to start a climate council in Poland. How did you get them?
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation, Elias, and it's so nice to see some friends here on the panel as well. So I think like in Poland, we had COP24 in 2018, and I think that was actually a breakthrough for the climate movement in Poland as well. So it was the time when Greta was mobilizing thousands of people to actually go on the streets. And in 2018, Polish youth climate movement was just starting. People were finally, I would say, like, yeah, maybe now, yes. People are finally able to vocalize what they want to actually achieve. So it was amazing to see so many people on the streets. But what I also realized was that there is actually no like transfer of this information from the streets to the ministry itself. So young people were on the streets next to next to the ministry, but there was no link between the decision makers and the young people protesting. And nobody cared about that. Young people said, okay, they will never listen to us. Policymakers said, we better not listen to them. And I was like, okay, this is the main issue. Like, we actually have to make this link. We have to make this platform that would allow them to hear like each other's voices. So I knew that during COP24, the Danish Youth Climate Council was announced. So during the live television interview, one of the Danish youth members in one of the delegation, as Philip has also mentioned, she asked on the live TV, the minister, like Danish Minister of Climate, whether they can have something like a youth climate council. And she said, yeah, of course. And then they have to follow up, unfortunately, because it was live. So this is what happened. So they established a council in Denmark, and it was, it was in the air. People knew that the council exists. So it's okay. If it worked in one of the EU countries, it means that it's possible in other countries because we all have the same political systems. So I just saw what are the mechanisms, what are the frameworks, and I proposed to create a council like that in Poland. And of course, a challenging thing is that the government is very far right-wing, very conservative. Today, there will be a reshuffling, so we are very excited for that after 8 years. But still, like for 8 years, we were struggling how to actually acknowledge that climate change is real as well. So establishing a council was really something super impressive. And after a year of negotiations, trying to convince the government, we did it. And the council is now like active for 4 years. We already have a second term now. And the young people are part of the delegations. So throughout the years, we actually managed to bring young people to COPs. But most importantly, we actually managed to be on the same level as other ministries. So whenever a climate act or climate related act is being negotiated in the Polish government, they have to, like, according to the law, they have to consult the Youth Climate Council. So for example, if there is something regarding climate education and the Ministry of Education is like leading the work, they send that back to the Ministry of Climate to provide like an opinion on climate, but at the same time they provide it to us, like, so it's actually very impressive. Same goes with finance. If there's any climate finance, it also has to go for the Youth Climate Council. So it's amazing. And now I'm also leading the coalition and the global alliance of the Youth Climate Council. So I'm no longer like active in the Polish council, but we have 7 countries in the world, Denmark, Poland, and the Netherlands in Europe. Then we have Ghana, Uganda, Nigeria, Sierra Leone in Africa. And then we have Costa Rica and Colombia and Brazil in Latin and South America. So we are expanding. So it's very promising because it means that if it was possible in one of the places in the region, it can be easily duplicated. So it's now about like experience sharing and like sharing like key lessons and also challenges that we very often forget about. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kasia. And yes, skill sharing, like, yeah, we have been discussing of like institutionalized instruments, how meaningful youth participation, negotiations, like dialogue between youth as a civil society or rather a population group in any country area and how they can work together. In case of Ukraine, I have heard that like right now, like Ukraine already, like the structure of Ukraine is quite welcoming everyone, and like many people from NGOs has already joined the Ministry of Environment in order to achieve things together that's like rather than demanding. And there is, of course, a need of professionals, a need of knowledge and education. And maybe I would like to question you about this, Mr. Option.
Yeah, sure. Like I will do this intervention and run for the negotiation. So I guess 3 points. First, we lack of professionals in Ukraine. Unfortunately, lots of people not only join like the ministry, different ministries from the civil society, but a lot of our like great people, they join the army. And like I know like several of really great climate negotiators whom has like enormous amount of knowledge. So you can call them, I don't know, like 11 p.m. during the night to ask about like some specific terminology, and he will reply. And unfortunately, they joined the army and they died protecting our country. I'm talking about Alexei Khabatyuk and many other of our colleagues. This gives an opportunity for the young generation, like for example, like Sergey and many others, to participate in the discussion. And it requires huge amount of knowledge, huge amount of expertise, huge amount of passion, energy. And like this is like what they definitely need. So we have a situation when a young professional could be parachuted into the government. And unfortunately, the salary in the government is not so great as, for example, in our donors project. So like we have this problem of cannibalization. So when a young professional comes to work for the government, he comes to COP, you know, he negotiates, he knows what it's all about, and then the government is couldn't afford paying him, you know, better salary. So this, and there are a lot of projects like EU funded, TS funded, UN funded, and they can take this person to work as an advisory, to work, of course, also for this benefit of a climate change, but it's not a civil bureaucrat that we needed. So this is like a big problem for us. Secondly, what I see from communicating from a young generation, like in Ukraine and internationally, we have a problem of knowledge. Like we have a young person, like who can say like, we would like to have this. And it's really great to see. But like when you started the debate, you know, like what a proposal, that comes like a problem. And this is why like when Elias and like Friday for Future, you know, they were like protesting near the cabinet of minister, demanding, I don't remember something. I come to them saying like, you know, like, why demand this for the cabinet of minister if it's like for the parliament to decide? So you choose the wrong, like the wrong square. I said, we didn't know that. I said like, okay, like I will give you a tour and I will explain you the DNA of decision-making process for you to be able to influence exactly the right institution and not to demand only like we wish to have, I don't know, like climate neutrality 2050. Like you need to add more, like with this percent of renewable, with this target and media, with like, and if the young generation will be able not only to be a passionate speaker, so you know, to give a really great speech and emotions and you know, like, but like supplemented with some kind of a knowledge, like believe me, it will be a crucial. In Ukraine, we have a problem of top down, bottom up. So a lot of the climate agenda are leadership based. So like people like in the ministry, in the presidential administration, parliament, who were parachuted there or like elected, they're pushing it from, you know, from the top to down. But like we never get praise for this by the population. For example, I was the one who lobbied the ratification of the Paris Agreement in 2016. For me, you know, like when I was, you know, presenting this law or like the resolution in our parliament, you know, I felt like, you know, like my name will be in Wikipedia. So like I wrote a PhD for this and it meant a lot for me. So I posted a Facebook post saying like, finally, Ukrainian parliament, I'm on top 5 parliament in the world to ratify it. And I receive a comments like, why are you dealing with climate? Like we need pensions, we need veterans, etc. So like nobody was praising, but it was like my, you know, like my admiration, and I know like why I'm doing it. But we don't have this bottom-up approach, you know, like when young generation are coming to mayors on their election, or to governors, or like to the member of parliament, and trying to ask on their press conferences or like meeting with electorate, like what you will do green for us, like what is your position on climate? So like first, like all of these people will say like, I never thought about this. But if you come second time for them, they will ask to the advisors like, look, like people are asking, maybe for them it's important, let me promise them something. And then if this person will be elected, you know, you need to come and to control something. Like you promise it, like you need to deliver. So this is kind of like participative democracy works. And this is what we lack here in Ukraine when, you know, like you can demand something from the top and like from behind. And the very last, I guess, like you see, you sit in our pavilion and like we're trying to work on an emotion. You see a roof, it's 100-year-old. It survived the First World War, the Second World War, but it didn't survive the Russian aggression. And you see we're sitting and like basically we are drawing because this is like a water and this is makes us, you know, the same pavilion as, you know, like in Pakistan or in a small island, like because we felt the same problem. It has the biggest man-made catastrophe, which is an ecocide in Kakhovka Dam, which was exploded by Russian. And the climate change is also a biggest man-made catastrophe of our world. And we see the opposite, the damaged nature. You see woods that are the lungs of a planet and that need to take the CO2 out of atmosphere. It's impossible to do. And this is like really important for us. And these cases needs to be investigated. And this, like my, you know, urge for the young people who are studying their bachelor, master, or PhD to come to Ukraine and to collect the sample of Chernozem, which is a black soil, the best one. This is polluted with phosphorus munition, and it's now a dead soil. How to, like, what to do with this? How, you know, how to deal with the biodiversity? How you clean the water? Like, this proposition could make you career wide, and this is like a very innovative, like emission from the war. Like there are emissions from the war, like the same amount of Belgium in Ukraine, and why on earth they need to be on our books in our NDCs, and it cost us, according to the methodology, $10 billion annually to remove them. Like imagine we need to negotiate knowing that like we have plus 10 million in our like NDC. It should be on aggressor book. So we have this aggressor pay, polluter pay principle in environment. We need to have this aggressors pay or aggressors refill principle. So a huge amount of innovative stuff will be learned by by Ukraine. And like you're able, it's for your generation, especially for the countries from the European Union, because we definitely believe that we will join the European Union. It will become our common problem. So thank you very much for coming to our pavilion. We do believe we give a bit of explanation to you, and Sergey will have his own star time to present the young generation who already, are decision makers in Ukraine. Thank you very much for the support.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Maybe we can come closer, just like sit closer. Yeah. So yeah, we have seen like a lot of like many factors. There is a war, a country like Ukraine getting free from Soviet Union, changing economy type, changing whole education system, and changing also mindset and values toward something new. While joining the EU, we are also having to defend our lands physically to be able to still grow food and export it to other countries. We have to work on so many things, and about education, about how to just join the action, even if you are not sure if you can do it. I would like to ask Tobias from Klimadelegation. And
yes, thank you for inviting, and I'm sorry I have to leave after my intervention. Right now, or what we see, Germany, for example, I'm from Germany, and Germany is a place where we have a civil society that is really strong because of laws, because it was built up for so many years and decades. This is a safety, security that many countries don't have. But at the same time, Europe, France, Netherlands, they are all part of the European Union. And this civil society in general in the European Union and many countries is strong. We have it compared to many other countries. You have a strong civil society, especially through youth, because we have democratic values, because we have the laws that protect us, also being on the streets, talking to politicians. This is something we can do, and that's something we're demanding again and again. We're not in every space, but we try to be in more and more spaces. And this is something that we as European youth in general can help with. We can support in sharing the minimum of, for example, IT infrastructure, sharing experiences, sharing whatever we have built the last years and decades, because much of it's not directly replicable to any youth in our youth society. But some things are adoptable for youth. Some things are really helpful to amplify youth voices. And for example, some days ago, there was the first, I don't know if it was the first, but at least the next iteration or try to have a European Conference of Youth. So regional conference of youth. The European Conference of Youth, I think never happened, at least not the last years, and I think never. And this is an approach, and this is where we can share our ideas, share our knowledge, share our infrastructure, whatever we have. And these are the spaces, especially Ukrainian youth, can be invited, share their knowledge they have. We can collaborate together. And I think these ways of educating, of building strong power together are the places where we can, as European youth in general, support and work alongside each other. Also during maybe the process of being accepted in the European Union, but also in general, like being European, not only EU, civil society to build this up. And I'm really happy to support on that. And I think we all are here in the panel. And therefore, thank you so much. Sorry I have to leave. It's negotiations ongoing.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Kasia, you want to sit here? Can you give it? Yeah, at COP, like, oh, you don't want to come, that's fine. Well, yes, I mean, at COP, so many things are happening. Sometimes I'm thinking if we are really in a climate, UN climate conference or in a trade center, given that at this COP, it's the hugest amount of fossil fuel industry representatives, but also a lot of young people. Accessibility has been better, and like safety. I was thinking just about everything that we have been discussed here, because like the cases in Poland, Austria, Germany, back to Ukraine, and the needs of Ukraine. And it has made me thinking that without international cooperation, without international exchange of knowledge, not just like talking about problems of Ukraine, but also learn from others what they do and work together. When a young person, first of all, come to a COP, to a climate conference, they're thinking what to do here and what can we do? It's so huge, the program is huge, logistics, so many things. And for me, it was like I think one of the greatest moments in my life when I came to COP25 and I was so lost, and then I saw a lot of youth going to somewhere and gathering, and there is how I learned about Yango. And then after COP after COP, SB after SB, I have personally felt this thirst to come again and again and again to meet up with people and learn. And like I would like to give the word to Zan. He has been the Global North focal point for Yango in 2022. What would you like to share with youth worldwide and in Ukraine who want to engage in climate negotiations?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me here. And so this is a very COP style panel. I'm probably gonna have to leave soon as well. We're all running in and out of negotiations. But I mean, my advice would be that you just know that you can really make a big difference. And even if you're not here at COP in person, there's a big difference you can make. I think, you know, climate action at the local level is so important, but these international agreements are very significant. Whatever gets decided at COP, that becomes binding for every country in the world. And every letter and detail of the COP texts have really reverberating impacts. And for youth, yeah, the opportunities to engage have really expanded in recent years. We're seeing a lot of young people sort of getting more access to educational opportunities and therefore getting into, you know, getting really well trained and joining party delegations. But even as civil society youth, there's really strong roles that you can play. Every negotiation session has a dedicated seat reserved for youth via the official youth constituency, Yango, but that's not a sort of organization that you have to join. It's just an open platform, which if you're here at COP, you can sign up and go and speak on behalf of young people. And so, but even more than in those official negotiation rooms, here at COP, all the key decision makers in the whole world in climate change are just sort of walking around. And a lot of the best advocacy actually happens in passing conversations. You know, you see a negotiator after a meeting and you say, you know, actually really wanted to just get your thoughts on this point, or there's this one bit of text that young people think could really make a big impact. And it's not difficult here to sort of get a negotiator's sort of email or WhatsApp, and then you can just ping them at the right moment. Like, we really need a, concentration from you on this point, and we hope this bit of text remains. So yeah, young people, even through the civil society platforms, can have a big role. And then also, protests and other forms of demonstration and raising awareness are very possible here as well. It happens in quite a sort of regulated manner, being a sort of high security protected UN space. But you can do protests in the blue zone. They call them actions here, but it's the same thing. And you can strategically time and place those to raise awareness and sort of call out specific issues. And what's been exciting in the last couple of years, I think, is that the wider youth movement has been so much more strategic in its action. It's not different youth groups sort of all over the place. A lot more of the youth groups have worked together and strategized together. So they'll make sure some of the group are sort of in the negotiation room, some are calling attention to media, some are doing protests all around the sort of same issues. And that can really add pressure. And some of the sort of major COP decisions, for example, the fund for loss and damage that was agreed last year and operationalized in the decision just a week ago, that never would have happened without the civil society and youth pressure behind it. And for people in Ukraine, that opportunity is very much there for them as well. And then the Elkoy system is very powerful, because that's a chance for youth to, present climate proposals to their national government, but those also then get collected into the wider sort of youth policy statements that are shown here at the COP. And also, there's nothing more powerful you can do than influence your own government. Then at the end of the day, COP is a sort of country government, or party as they call it here, driven process. Parties, government negotiators might not always listen to sort of international activist groups who are sort of in the news, but if young people from Ukraine go to their own negotiators and say, we as young people think this make a big difference to the future of our country, they really have an obligation to listen to you, and you can have a big impact on their position through them, and they in turn can influence the whole COP process. So yeah, I think that there is a lot of opportunity there. And yeah, all the other people in the group here can give good advice on how to take advantage of that.
Yeah, indeed. And like, I remember when the full-scale invasion, on Ukraine started, Yango did really provide a platform, even like with yellow civil society badges, to get on the table with negotiators and tell what you feel. And it's really impactful. And like,
sorry, one last thing I forgot to say is also the connection between climate and conflict is something that's been much more highlighted recently. And you spoke about this as well, the connection between the fossil fuel industry and conflict, and how that impacts, action on climate change. I think, it's so interconnected, but there hasn't really been a sort of specific dialogue enough on that nexus. But we had just a couple of days ago, the first sort of presidency-led event on the connection between youth climate action and youth peace and security. And the goal of that event was to try and call for more of a global framework and coordination between the UN agencies to highlight that topic specifically. So I think for youth from Ukraine, definitely, the world wants to hear from you more. And hopefully over, the coming years, even more, it can be the platform sort of strengthened to give you that important voice.
yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe you can pass the microphone to someone. Yeah, we have like before the next session, we have up to 10 minutes. The next session here will be about.
I'll try to be very short.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for having me at this panel, and I would like to clarify at the beginning that I'm not a negotiator, but a part of organizational group of the Pavilion, and I'm sharing here my thoughts. And while seeing the name of this panel, Amplifying Youth Role in the Ukraine's Green Recovery, the first thing that came into my mind, that I have no doubts that our youth have a significant role in recovery, because this is something that we saw since the beginning of full-scale invasion, especially active participation of youth. I remember even me and my friends and many, not just youth organizations, but just young people that were helping with humanitarian aid. And now we still see it, and as well as raising funds, and gathering donations. This is something that our youth has a really active role. And so what comes to green recovery, I have no doubts that young people, young Ukrainians will have a great role and significant part in reconstruction. And I guess I would say two things how Ukrainians may young Ukrainians may engage into green recovery. It's first of all engage into decision making by different ways. So it may be membership in NGO and membership in youth NGO, and also being a member of youth councils. This is we have so many youth councils. This is an institution that is broadly spread over the Ukraine, and I would say that they have been institutionalized well and showed their efficiency. And so this is one of the instruments how to be engaged into decision making. It's advising on the regional level authorities how to make green decisions and lobby green decisions. But another example that Alexei also mentioned, how to engage into green recovery, it's maybe joining civil service, because our government, especially now when we have so many people that left the country, really need people. And if someone has expertise, some level of expertise, and is young and has all the energy, I guess it's a great idea to join the civil service. And also we have but also it may be something that I mentioned before, is joining NGO. And Ukrainian ministries and Ministry of Environmental Protection of Ukraine, I would say that have a great cooperation between NGOs. We have the first thing that came to my mind, that comes to mind, is cooperation of Ministry of Environmental Protection and Ecodia. We have that ministry cooperates regarding CO2 emissions and many other matters of cooperation. So youth participation in NGOs, I think it's one of the ways to get the expertise and to have the impact. But also other thing that I would like to admit, that I think that we still need to raise awareness about the climate change, not just among Ukrainians, but among young Ukrainians. We may know that we need to be more eco-friendly, but some young Ukrainians do not know that we need to be more climate friendly, and that we need to do climate actions, and we need to do that now. So we from one side we see great active participation of young people, and even in Ukrainian Pavilion we had few events with youth participation organized by youth, and here is one of them. But I'm sure that wide awareness of people is something that has a great impact on decision making as well. So I try to be brief, and we're still make it on time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sergey. You had the last word, and thank you so much for everyone to joining our panel. This was part of the initiative of a local conference of youth in Ukraine, youth-driven, youth-led, youth-organized conference for youth. And we hope to have soon a shared platform with the Environment Ministry of Ukraine. And of course, there will be more events coming to the end of this year. Unfortunately, the place where we wanted to organize the local conference of youth in Ukraine got a little bit damaged by a Russian bomb. So we had we decided we will still conduct sessions in Ukraine, and you're welcome to join. We will make hybrid sessions for both refugees in Berlin and for people in Ukraine in Kiev, and we will link it with online sessions together. Anyone is welcome. Everybody is needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for organizing this panel.
Yeah, and everyone present here, we are conducting a next session on preservation of Ukraine's nature.